Welcome to the Darkstream, VoxDay, voxday.net, and unauthorized.tv. So thanks for firing up. Told that the audio is good, presumably the video is good. Unauthorized chat is rolling and the live chat is rolling, so we are all good to go. Sorry I haven't been around much. Or I really haven't been available to do anything on the video. I've been busy with the edits, some of the edits coming in from the first readers on Sea of Skulls. Actually fewer than I expected, but just getting that tuned up, cleaned up, and hopefully going to get the EPUB out here in the near future. The audiobook is already being recorded. In fact, over half of it already is recorded. But the great Jeremy Daw is in the process of finishing that up. So we'll get the audiobook plus out when that is available. And we'll also get it up, of course, right here on Unauthorized. I don't know if all of you have availed yourself of this, but we actually do have a number of our audiobooks available in MP3 format. So if you're ever going on the road for a while, don't hesitate to check that out. And then we've also been pretty busy with working, of course, on the bindery. We're not there yet. We have, of the 3 final critical issues, 2 of them we believe to be resolved, and we're in the process of testing to be certain of that. And there is one more that has to be resolved. Cactus Eater Bear says, for Castalia Library, I don't know what that, you have to be more, please keep in mind that there's a bunch of other comments besides yours sometimes, and also there's a slight delay on when your comment comes through. So when you just throw in this partial phrase for a question, I don't know what you're talking about. I need to know what the context is. A Sea of Skulls will be coming out for Castalia Library, but not for a while. That's like sometime next summer, most likely. We have a lot of interior artwork to do for the library version. The hardcover will be out probably in the middle of winter. Audiobooks for library. No, these are mostly some of them is overlap. I believe the missionaries are up there, the Prometheans up there. I mean, we can, if you go to unauthorized and just click on audiobooks, I think it says Castalia audiobooks or something like that. Let me see if I can find it here. No, because I'm not logged in through that. Anyhow, you're all, if you're an unauthorized subscriber, check it out. There's a bunch, actually I can check it out. I can't show it to you on the screen right at the moment, but I can certainly check it out. So if I go to unauthorized home, yeah, right there right in the middle, if you look down from Stephen Molyneux, the bottom full row is Castalia audiobooks. And let's see, we have Superluminary Book 1, The Lords of Creation by John C. Wright. The entirety of A Throne of Bones, divided into 3 sections that range from 9 to 11 hours. Do We Need God to Be Good by Christopher Hallpike. Actually, here the easiest thing might be if I took a screenshot. Okay, so I'll just take a screenshot and then I will save it and then I'll bring it up. So this is it. Crop. save this as, let's see here. Images. No. Okay. So if I add a source image file, there we go. So this is what we have right here. Should be able to read some of those. Okay. Anthony says, yet another example of the DLive comment ghetto. Yeah, there's not as much delay on the unauthorized chat. So let's see where we're. Do we need God to be good? History of Strategy, Mutiny in Space, War Dogs 1, War Dogs Incorporated 2, and War Dogs Incorporated 3. The Irrational Atheist, The Missionaries, SJWs Always Lie, Jordanetics, what was this one? The Corrosion and Corporate Cancer, and the one about the devil. Anyhow, they're all there. Charlie Foxtra said, I recently finished reading The Missionaries, and it was probably the funniest book I've read. That is absolutely true. It's in my top 5 funniest books ever. Can't wait to get it in leather. You'll like the leather one even better, and if you love The Missionaries, you will really, really like the Promethean. And some even think that it's more attractive in leather than The Missionaries, but we'll see. I love them both, so I have no opinion there. Nibmeister would love to have Jeremy Daw perform the Divine Comedy. That's not a bad idea, actually. So what we should do, actually, I think, is train his voice and then be able to use AI to crank out the audiobooks. I think that would be a good idea. Should talk to him about that. Anyhow, let's see here. So, yeah, so there's a bunch of audiobooks up there. If you're not aware of that, please make sure you avail yourself of them. I mean, it's just another benefit of subscribing to Unauthorized, and it's a much better deal than Audible. So, granted, the selection is considerably smaller, but we are going to start putting more up there, and A Sea of Skulls will definitely go up there. Although if you want to buy it, you'll be able to. But this is kind of exciting. And if you notice up there at the top, there is the sign with the blue in it is, if you can't read that, it says Castalia Library. And so we actually have the sign up, and we've got people working there, and it's coming along. We're actually working on, we've got the leathers for our first customer have come in, and we're just waiting for the boards, and then we can get at it. Yes, Cactus Cedar Bear, it is the real sign. The thing that's funny is that if I'll pop it up again, I wanted to do it black, and we have this really cool black thing that we have our business cards on. But if you see where the green is, the sort of teal green, the Thai restaurant, they had a black sign until our sign went up, and then they obviously changed their sign and made it a green one. So we could have used the black and after all, but actually I think that in light of the way that most of the other things are white, it stands out nicely enough. And so it fits the area, it fits the building and everything. So quite happy about that. Good to see that in action. And then one more thing. Well, yeah, and thanks to all of the backers who made this possible. I mean, we have not forgotten at all about the Iliad or the Odyssey. To the contrary, we are absolutely determined to use the information that we've been learning and the processes that we've been implementing, we're going to use them to make sure that the additions that we do are awesome. That's the whole goal. And if there's one thing I've learned over the past 4 years or so, it's that it is never a mistake to take the time to do it right, even if every single person is getting irritated about how long it's taking. I mean, those of you who subscribe to the Junior Classics, 7 and 8 are going to be going out to you very soon. We've had them in order for 3 weeks. I don't know what's taking the printer so long. But I don't think anybody who receives them is going to be saying, gee, it wasn't worth it. It's possible, but believe me, if you've got kids who know that you're the one responsible for the books, I mean, you're not feeling any more pressure to get them done than I am. So anyhow, and now one last thing I'll show you before we get into the topic that I wanted to discuss a little bit, which is actually quite related. We finished and we submitted to the bindery the stamp designs. So I haven't gotten a firm date yet, but it is likely that Castalia History Books 2 and 3 are going to get bound pretty soon, hopefully soon enough for them to get out before Christmas. And this is what they look like. So on the left is the, as you're looking at the screen, on the left is the Medieval History Volume 1, and on the right is the Medieval History Volume 2. Let me see if I can fit this. I think I can fit the spines in there too. Let me pull them up. So Volume 1 is the Christian Empire to the 12th century, and Volume 2 is the 12th century to the Renaissance. Would anyone care to guess who these figures are? The only hint that I'll give you is that they are significant historical figures who are addressed in the appropriate volume. So the figure on Volume 1 is relevant to the Christian Empire to the 12th century, and the second figure is relevant to between the 12th century and the Renaissance. Veritas is partially correct. Good job. Hosbear got it too. As did Exterminator Bear. Well done. That is indeed Charlemagne, and it's actually a adaptation of two different paintings. We couldn't adapt it precisely because the one had the crown had extensions on it that made it just looked imbalanced compared to the other one, so we had to remove those, and then we modified the robe because the first robe didn't work very well. The production editor did a great job of adapting it, and even arranged the bottom part to match the other figure quite relatively precisely. The figure on the right is Pope Innocent III. He was the Pope who called for the Fourth Crusade, and which of course is described in some detail in Volume 2. So, and then of course we have our Castalia history motto, Lego ergo scio, and I'm confident that these are going to be two very good looking volumes. So they're already pretty close to sold out, to be honest with you. Um, so now we will obviously end up producing more of them at some point in time. Um, we had no idea that we'd hit 500 subscribers this quickly. We made the call to go ahead and print the interiors months ago, and it was a little bit astonishing to find out that they're going to be sold out before we can even get them produced. But what we will do, however, is you know, we'd actually talked about possibly shutting down the subscription until the next book. But what we're going to do is, if we have to do a short run to do a few more, we will. So if we have to do a small second edition, we will. And that's one thing that's really nice about having the bindery, is it gives us a lot more flexibility in this regard. A pope named Innocent, given name or pseudonym. All pope names are essentially pseudonyms. I mean, they're really pope names. For example, when Cardinal Bergoglio was named fake pope, he took the name Francis. The current pope's name is not Francis. It's Rodrigo Bergoglio or something like that. It's not Rodrigo, but it is Bergoglio. Anyhow, so Innocent was the name that particular pope chose when he took office. In historical retrospective, maybe it's a little bit ironic. Not as bad as it could have been. History was why I was originally into Libraria. Very excited about the history series. Yeah, I mean, so are we. We're working on we're having some very interesting conversations with some very significant publishers, and I think that we're going to be able to offer some really cool books. We literally just pulled the trigger on printing the Landmark Thucydides. I know that's the first book, but that was a pretty bad, not a bad, it was an excessively ambitious decision on my part to start with that book, because it's got an unusual form factor and it's big, and we just shouldn't have started with that one. But c'est la vie. It's coming along, and we're going to do our very best to make sure that it looks just as good in every way as books 2 and 3. So, chains and change. What do I mean by that? And it's reasonable that we're talking about books here, because that's what I'm talking about. I'm specifically talking about the way in which I'm sorry, Exterminator Bear just said, it's about the only thing I get excited about these days, every time you show a new book layout. Well, I'm hoping that we're going to give you more occasions to get excited, because, like I said, we're working on some new projects. We're very, very close to nailing some of them down, but I'm not going to mention anything until it's a definite go. So speaking of inspiring, I'm sure that all of you are aware that Amazon is just destroying the book market for everyone. They're sucking up all of the financial oxygen in the room. They're picking winners. We don't even have any of our ebooks available on Amazon anymore. We do plan to put them back up there, but it's just not a priority. We used to sell a lot of books on Amazon, and it's just not worth it anymore. Their algorithm now is so corrupted and is so designed to choose a few specific winners. And this came out during the during the discussion on copyright. We had a great discussion on copyright on Social Galactic yesterday. I really enjoyed it. Even the people that were arguing positions that were obviously ignorant and wrong were doing so with a reasonable amount of intelligence and logic on their side. They were wrong because their basic assumptions and their basic data was wrong, but they were arguing quite reasonably about it. And it got me thinking about why. Like, I knew instinctively that copyright was wrong. I knew the arguments in favor of copyright were false. But what I didn't know is the extent of how false some of them were. How nonsensical it is to say that people are not going to write or publish books without copyright, or without the protection of copyright. And it was really remarkable to look into the numbers for the first time in years and see that Amazon and the big publishers are making the vast majority of money in the book industry. All the authors combined are making very little. And it's just incredible how people are brainwashed into thinking that they are benefited by a system that quite clearly and obviously can't possibly be benefiting them or their class in general. And if you can look at the numbers on the blog, but what you can see is that the average book only sells 200 copies. And this is according to Amazon's data. The average book on Amazon only sells 200 copies in the first year. Now, they also claim that it sells 1,000 lifetime. I'm a little dubious about that, but it's possible. But here's the thing. 200, and this includes ebooks, obviously. So you're making what? At most, $3 off it. So the most that you can possibly make in a year on a new book, which probably takes the average author a year to write, that's $600 a year. Nobody is writing a book to make $600 a year. Now, an extra $600 a year isn't bad, especially if it's your hobby. But remember, that's the average. Given that, what's her name, Colleen something or other, has 2 books that sold nearly 4 million between it. That means that there are a lot of authors who sell a lot less than $200. So the whole idea that copyright is necessary because it allows authors to profit from their works, and without it they wouldn't write, just obviously isn't true. Because in the current copyright system, the vast majority of the money is going to either Amazon, and most of it's going to Amazon, or to the 5 major publishers. And this is despite the fact that 57% of the books that are now published are self-published. In fact, that's one of the problems. That's one of the reasons why people's sales are dropping, is because there were 4 million self-published books published in 2022. That's compared to 600,000 in 2014, which ironically was when Castalia House got started. So just on the basis of the math alone, because remember, the total, I shouldn't say remember, the interesting thing is that the total number of books sold hasn't increased at all. So you've got more and more people fighting over the same space. It's essentially a zero-sum game at this point. So what do we do as independent authors or as independent publishers? Well, you know what Castalia has done. Number one, we found a niche that's very, very difficult to enter. Especially after the experience of creating our own bindery, you have to be pretty close to crazy, and you have to be totally obsessed with book quality to even try it, to even have any chance of success whatsoever. Do you think similarly about patents? No, we'll discuss that some other time. It's a good topic, but I'm not really I'm not focusing on the illegitimacy of copyright or anything like that, or what would be a better solution. We can talk about that some other time. I have my thoughts. I'm a firm believer in the value of the public domain, and and when the time is right, I think that it will be recognized that I am not a hypocrite. But I have no intention of saying anything about my personal stance or decisions on the topic with regards to my own writing at this time. It's just not relevant at the moment. But I'm from the computer game industry. It's incredibly competitive, and there you have a very limited window of opportunity to get your project done and out before it becomes technologically obsolete and unviable. Books, that's not the case. Some of my favorite authors died more than 2,500 years ago. And to be honest, I strongly suspect that Aristotle would be much happier to know that people are reading him 3,000 years later than he would have to make a bit more money at the time, or whatever. But the point is that we have to think about what we can do. And so what we've done is we've largely abandoned Amazon. You can still buy our print editions there if you want to. We're all for that. But now we prefer people to buy directly from us, and we have our shipping set up, and the shipping is free, so free shipping. And there's a whole system there. So here's the question, and if there are any authors, any independent authors listening here, I'd be curious to get your response. When we were just acting as a regular publisher, a fair number of authors, preferred Bain, preferred working with Amazon to working with us. Now, it's fine for those who actually, prefer, maybe they like the offer better or whatever. But I do think it's interesting that some of the people who claim to be on our side would much rather work with Amazon or even a Tor than work with us. I mean, that to me just seems insane. I mean, maybe you don't like me, maybe you don't trust me, but how could you ever possibly think that you can trust Amazon for 5 seconds? I mean, practically all of their business practices are openly unethical. They literally built their business on the idea of getting around paying sales taxes. The business was built on a tax evasion scheme. It's crazy. And I mean, we don't even need to get into the way that they'll use their data analysis to determine what various items are profitable and selling well, and then they'll go and source sometimes the same person that makes it for these other people, and then push the other one out of business. And they're doing that to the books. They're absolutely doing it to the books. So anyhow, and this is related. Kajia says, I've been waiting for years till Castalia books will be available to ship to Poland. I consciously decided to wait so I can buy directly and support directly. Well, I may have some good news for you, because we are currently talking to a new printer / distributor, and they're much more Europe focused, and there might be some solutions there. I had a long conversation today. There's some other really interesting aspects to it that relate to our leather books and that relate to our comics, but it also definitely relates to things like customers in Poland and so forth. In the meantime, at least our ebooks are available. But one thing that I was thinking is, what if we were, now that we've got our own shipping set up, now that we've got a means of getting things printed, and maybe it's the right time to start talking to authors about not us publishing them, but us essentially setting up a self-publishing infrastructure that delivers, that not just but basically a whole self-publishing infrastructure that doesn't go through Amazon at all. I'm wondering if that's something that would make sense to people that have found their sales on Amazon getting destroyed. Because again, if you think about it, there were 600,000 before. There's 4 million now. So, mathematically, you would need to expect your sales to fall by 7/8. All things being equal. Now, all things are not equal. Nobody's sales, very few people's sales, I think, have fallen by 7/8, because we all have various followings and support groups and that sort of thing. But you can see where the downward pressure exists, and AI is only going to speed it up. Do you see a time coming when Library Libraria will be a very small percentage of the business, with contracts being the majority volume? Yes. I think eventually that Library and Libraria will become kind of our elite collector's subscription, and that we're already working on independent subscriptions that are just specifically related to one specific author, one specific series, that sort of thing. We couldn't do that before we had our own bindery, because it's too expensive, and you need to have, I think originally when we were working on it, we considered kind of 50 to be the bare minimum volume, but realistically 250 to 300 is probably the bare minimum that you can reasonably do with the current system. With the new system that we've been putting together, I think that we could theoretically reasonably do small runs as small as 25 to 50. Now, would we choose to do that? No, we don't want to have, it depends. We clearly don't want to have a bunch of tiny little customers, because that's just too much work. But if there's a series that we like, if there's something that we want to do because we want to do it, because we think it's high quality, because we think it's important, then I think we'd have the ability to do something like do something more on the order of let me give you an example. Let's say we did the Cambridge Medieval History series. Actually, no, we've already done medieval history. We've done the short one. Let's say we decide to do the complete Cambridge Ancient History series. If you look up to my, on the screen it's to the left, but it's to my right. Do you see those books up in the corner? There's 2 rows of them that are kind of red brownish with the gold Cambridge stamp on the bottom of the spine. Those are the Cambridge Ancient History series. Now, that's a big series. There's like 14 of the books. How many people realistically would subscribe to something like that? It would be expensive. They're big books. There's a lot of them. Realistically, I mean, don't get me wrong, the interest in the history series has shocked me. But we can't make that part of the history series because it's its own thing. But if we were to do an independent subscription to it, that would take 3 years to fulfill, and you would get one of those every 2 months, every 3 months, whatever we would plan it out to be. Maybe 25, maybe 30 people would actually subscribe to that. I would do that. I would create that subscription, and it would be worth it to me for us to have that. So that's very different than if some independent author contacts us and says, hey, I want to do 25 books. Because it's not something that's really going to, you wouldn't think it's something that's going to build. But we'll have to see. We've just started doing this. We know there's a lot of interest in it. Practically every author that we've talked to about it, you can see them going, ooh, I could do some of those on my next crowdfund. Ooh, I could do some of those and give them away to my friends, that kind of thing. So, but I do think it would be very, very useful to a lot of people if we were to give them an alternative to Amazon. Anthony says, as Ingram sucks for ebooks, I would absolutely use a Castalia House print/ebook solution. Yeah, so it's something that we're going to have to look into. The problem, of course, initially is you've got this catch-22 with ebooks in particular, and that is, if an author doesn't sell very well, it's not worth the time that it takes just to keep track of what he sold and let him know and pay him. It's literally not worth the time. But when an author sells well, then he not unreasonably sometimes starts to think, well, what do I need these guys for? People are buying the books because of me, not because of the publishing company, obvious. And I don't fault that reasoning or the authors. The problem is that that's what's put them in the situation where they're completely vulnerable to the vagaries of Amazon. It's really a no-win situation for them going to Amazon. But if we can figure out a way to make it easy for them to sell their print books, that's a very different proposition. There, you're actually providing enough value. So anyhow, we're just thinking about it. I mean, right now we're way too busy to even think about doing anything about that. Um, Bilbo's still focused on better publish banjo, America's most masculine instrument, before Easton beats you to it. Yeah, obviously, that is our top priority, of course. Publishing a big, oversized coffee table book on premium glossy paper, lots of pictures of really beautiful banjos, some of the more important and historically significant banjo players, and of course, a couple of a couple fold out pictures of hot women wearing bikinis and playing the banjo. Because let's face it, it doesn't get any sexier than bikinis and banjos. Exterminator says, that's maybe the third or fourth time you've mentioned an alternative to Amazon in the last 4 years. Subscription line and Meets membership. Well, the thing is, we're actively doing an alternative to Amazon now. Right now, we're only doing our stuff, obviously. And right now our focus is quite clearly on the deluxe business, because that's something that only somebody like a Brandon Sanderson can reasonably do on his own. But and even there, he might end up being a customer someday. Who knows? But the reason I've been talking about alternatives to Amazon is because as an author, I knew that this was coming. I did the math very early on, and people kept getting more and more excited that, ooh, the amount that Amazon is contributing to the author fund is bigger. And I realized that each dollar they put in there represented $4 of book sales, of ebook sales that were not happening. I mean, it's really remarkable. Despite the fact that ebook sales have grown considerably, the total amount of revenue, I mean, a fairly similar number of books are sold, but the total of amount of revenue for ebooks is 1/11 the revenue for print. It's not a great development for most authors. It's been very good for a very small number of authors who were favored by the algorithm. But Anthony says, sorry, that was Anthony. I didn't thank you. That was a super chat. It's obviously been a while since I've done this. I was like, there's a yellow one. And then Q1882, thank you very much for your super chat. He says, funds to keep your lair warm this winter. Well, I do appreciate that. It does look like it's going to be a chilly one, but we're well stocked with firewood. We're well stocked with wine. Sadly, we're a little bit low on the pata negra and chorizo, but hopefully we'll be able to do something about that in the reasonably near future. So anyhow, I really do appreciate the fact that you guys care enough about this stuff to want to discuss it. Kingswood says, I like being indie. In 2018, I said the only interesting publishers were Castalia or Baen. Same today. Misbehavior of Baen authors notwithstanding. It's fine. I mean, honestly, I don't have any personal problem with any of the Baen authors. Some of them may not like me. That's fine. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. I think highly of some of them. I think a little less highly of others. But in each case, it's only about their books. It's not about them. I mean, honestly, I don't really care that much about an author as a person. I tend to care more about their books. So, um, did Amazon destroying the ebook market revive the print market, or is it on the decline? No, the print market has is basically been more or less flat. um, to be able to acquire Spanish ham, the equivalent of one U.S. state over, living the dream. Oh, you have no idea. It was it was funny. We went. Space Bunny and I went to this I don't know what convention or something, and they had everything there. I mean, we're talking like Italian furniture, uh, you know, French wine companies. Um, I mean, they had like Swiss military stuff. I mean, pretty much if you can if it was European and you can imagine it, it was probably there. Swiss watches, um, and it was funny because Space Bunny was looking for something, and then we spotted a Spanish booth, and it wasn't just a Spanish import company, but it was one that the guy who actually, the butcher who actually made the chorizo was there. And so, of course, I started talking to him, and it turned out that they had pata negra there. They, and we hadn't had lunch yet. We were actually looking to get lunch. And so, Space Bunny comes back, and I've already bought like, you know, 100 grams of pata negra and a glass of really good Spanish wine. I think it was a Rioja. Might have been, no, it wasn't a Priorado. It was a Rioja. And so, and I'm like chatting with the guy, and and she's like, damn it, I can't leave you alone for 5 minutes. And you're like, next thing you know, I'm like there with my so she's like, okay, well, let's go find a table. So we went and found a table, and she went to like get a hamburger or something. The stuff that the whole place was actually set up to serve people with. So I'm sitting there, and it's one of those tables where there's like room for 4 people, and obviously we only needed the 2. So this young couple comes by, and they sit down. They're like, "Oh, can we sit here?" And, yeah, sure. And I could tell from their accent that they were Spanish. So um, I said, "Oh, are you Spanish?" And they're like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I'm having some." I said, "I'm having pata negra for lunch. Pata negra for lunch. Would you like some?" And they're like, "Are you kidding?" And I come back, and like we're chatting and stuff, and my wife is of course like, "I've got to stop leaving you alone." So they promptly went off and got their own pata negra. So it was kind of like our very high class um, stadium food. It was a good time. I was happy. The and of course the best thing is that now I know like a really good place to get it here, if there isn't time to make a run to Barcelona. So it's all good. It's all good. But what I was saying is that what I really appreciate is the way that the people who support the library and who support Castalia House in general understand the long-term significance of what we're doing. You know, because this isn't just my vision. I mean, yes, there's certain things that I see, like the issues with Amazon early on, but the idea, it's so useful to be able to bounce these ideas off you and learn, okay, yes, this particular idea might be viable. No, this idea is crazy and is not going to work. So I just wanted you guys to know that I really appreciate the input that you have, because it helps us make better decisions, and which tends to lead to better results. And so Anyhow, thanks for tuning in. I'm Vox Day, and this is the Darkstream.